Bridget Jones, it's time to live.
This Galentine's Day, make a date with Peacock.
I've set you up on Tinder.
What?
You're welcome.
You can call me Rockstar.
Bridget Jones.
But you can call her mummy.
Experience the final chapter of Bridget's unforgettable journey.
By all that's holy, Bridget Jones.
You are a brilliant woman. Embrace the chaos.
Enjoy your weekend, Mrs. Darcy.
Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. Streaming only on Peacock February 13th.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to talk about the guinea pig principle, and I did not make up that term. I will tell you about it and how it relates to feminine energy. I'm not going to tell you, that you have to love guinea pigs as much as I do, so don't worry, or that guinea pigs have feminine energy, so you should be on tenterhooks waiting to see what I am going to say. And before that, please do subscribe. The most recent subscriber episode was on when the elephant in the room of your marriage is that you could never be friends or best friends, certainly with your spouse, and why you might feel like this and how therapy can sometimes help. Okay, so I posted a little video on social media, and obviously follow me on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. And it was a little video of the guinea pig, and I'm feeding the guinea pig a carrot. And the text is, if you don't find your wife as delightful and cute and adorable as I find this guinea pig, then that's why she's not, quote, in her feminine energy with you. Because that, in her feminine energy, just means like she's relaxed and confident in knowing that you find her to be adorable and attractive. So then she could relax into that, versus in her masculine energy would mean that she picks up on that you don't find her adorable and delightful. And so then the relationship always may end. Subconsciously, she's always still taking care of herself and being very independent. Like, independent's good, obviously, I'm independent, I got my career, all my shit, but like avoidant really is more what I mean. If you want your wife to be vulnerable and soft and fun and flirtatious, she cannot do that if she doesn't feel relaxed around you and she doesn't feel wholly loved by you, right? And a lot of guys do not really understand this. So this feminine energy, masculine energy thing, I've done a lot on how I think that it's reductive at best, right? But point is that people tend to want a relaxed, loving, vulnerable woman who can be flirtatious and cute with them. That is not possible if the man does not love you unconditionally and wholly and think that you are just so awesome and cute and delightful and attractive, right? So, and I think that sometimes guys don't realize how important it is for women, that cute part, that adorable part, because that's the reparenting part. Like they think, well, I tell her that she's hot. I had a podcast exactly on this shit like 2 years ago by now. I think you should Google look up in the Spotify search app for Dr. Psych Mom Show, use the app, then you go to the search bar at the top and type in beautiful. Because there was some guy who said he could call his wife hot but not beautiful because she was overweight, and he still wanted to have sex with her, but he couldn't bring himself to call her beautiful. And I really handed him his ass, right? Because fuck you. Like, that's so mean, If you can get it up and you think she's hot and sexy, but you just won't call her beautiful. And he wasn't calling her beautiful because then like maybe she won't lose weight, because like she won't have the motivation of her husband being a douchebag. I don't know. It was upsetting. So so you got to listen to that one too. It's funny too, obviously. So point being, guys don't realize that that's the reparenting part, is that like, and you can go back to all my stuff on reparenting. Everybody's has an inner child. You can use that term or not if you think it's like woo-woo, but point being, everybody's got an inner child and you want to be loved in an unconditional way, whether or not you received it. If you never received it, it's probably, even more important in a sense. But if you did, receive it, then you'll get it. Like, you're naturally drawn to people who will be unconditionally loving in the ways that your original attachment figures, your parents, were for you. So good job on you. You know, you're probably okay. You're probably not even listening to this podcast. But for people who felt like their parents really were not there for them in important ways, it is even more important to get that unconditional love that you never got. And for a little girl, that's being so cute, so adorable, just the most wonderful little girl, right? And so if you don't ever feel like your husband feels like that about you, I mean, all these memes and shit, all these TikTok reels and everything, they're all like, not all, but there's like a large segment of them where the woman feels taken care of, like a little girl, like this whole thing about like, my husband fills up my water bottle before bed. And then there's like a funny video where the guy's like, I have to leave the house, so I am helping my wife. And he was like drawing a map of where the sink was so she could fill up her own water bottle. It was like funny. Like, obviously, they're in a family. It was like a family TikTok account. She takes care of the children and keeps them alive. But like the way that their little relationship cute thing is that he takes care of her by filling up her water bottle. And the idea is that that's so essential. She's his special little girl. He takes care of that stuff for her. Right. And so there are, and I talk about this in the gender inverse as well. Like I talk about, like, to women, I say, well, and I've said this in many posts and podcasts, like, who do you think your son who loves to cuddle, who does he grow into? A man who likes to cuddle, right? Like, don't you want him to find a wife who thinks that he's, you know, cuddleable, you know, and loves him and wants to show him love in the way that's important to him, which, as you know, if you have your cuddly little boy, is going to be that he likes hugs and kisses when he's older too. And if he doesn't get that, then he doesn't feel reparented on a deep level, and he feels misunderstood and alone, etc., etc. Or like children that like words of affirmation. So if your son, if you're always saying, oh, you're so smart, you know, well, great job. Like when he gets a promotion, don't you want his wife to say, oh, you're so smart, great job? Yeah, right? And the reason is because that would speak to his core need to be told that, because that's his love language and he's reparented in that moment. So for many women, it's this idea of being like your special little girl, really, you know, and this is so key for like people who are weird and awkward around emotions. It's because in your family, emotions were not discussed. Everybody was weird and awkward around emotions and kind of stunted around expressing intimacy or affection in an unguarded way. So for men like that, it's difficult to say something like, you know, like, oh, you're just so adorable. I love you so much. You have such a sweet, you know, little face or whatever, like in the morning if you're cuddling or whatever the case may be. And they can't say stuff like that because stuff was never really said like that in their home. And sometimes it was to like literally the pet, but like nobody else. And so then it's kind of hard for them. So then they do this like guard up thing where like they act like, you know, like they're super adult, and they say to their wife things like, that's a nice shirt. And she's supposed to say, thank you. And then somehow she's going to want to like, fuck, like how, you know, that's like a business interaction, you know? And so then they say there's like no emotional connection. There's no making anybody feel loved and vulnerable and close. But then somehow she's going to want to be intimate. Well, she frequently is intimate in the nice shirt way. She basically has a round of sex with you, and she doesn't really make any noise, and it's done efficiently, and possibly there's some robot help, you know, in terms of the vibrator. And then we are done. We have efficiently had a round of sex, just like a compliment was delivered efficiently earlier in the day. But the guys that are like, oh my God, you're so sweet, you're so cute, look at how wonderful you are, those guys get different kind of sex, right? Because the woman feels vulnerable with them. She feels cared for. She feels loved. He doesn't end every hug. You know, like there were these memes about like, don't end the hugs when your kids hug you, you know. Don't end the hug when your wife hugs you, right? She still wants to be close in that non-sexual way. Guys that push away from hugs, and this happens a lot. I talk to people about this all the time. Guys who end the non-sexual physical touch first, you think your wife then wants to like open her body to you sexually? Of course not. She feels rejected. you know? And you could be like, oh, well, she started rejecting me first and I used to be like so amazing. Well, good. Anybody who talks about how amazing they are needs like 7 rounds of therapy and then to come back to exactly the same place of this podcast, and maybe they'll understand better. If you're focusing on how wonderful you are not focusing on how wonderful your spouse is. And that is the whole point of this podcast. If you treat your spouse, in this case, I'm talking about if you treat your wife like she's the most lovable person in the world, wait and see what happens to your intimate life, because she can only relax if you think that she's as cute as I think my guinea pig is, right? And so then I've never heard this, but I'll just say it because who knows, like, you know, everybody likes even Steven. So do guys want to be called, you know, my special little boy? Some of them do. Some people have all kinds of stuff going on, right? But I have heard it different, you know, and no judgment. Like, I mean, there's like all sorts of shit going on, right? And role play and this and that and the other. But in general, if we're just trying to stick to the middle of the bell curve, the man wants to be treated like a big, strong man, and the woman wants to be treated like a beautiful little girl. And that is the core unconscious motivation, and if you respond to that, you do really well. You know, you do a lot better with the opposite sex because you finally understand them, because you're using empathy. You're thinking, oh, how much would I want to be thought of as, like, you know, her hero? I hear that one a lot, her hero. So that's just as much of a fantasy as his special princess, right? So there's this TikTok account, Pookie and Jet. You got to follow this thing. It's really funny. And it's cute. I mean, assuming that he doesn't come out to be cheating on her or something, then I think it's really cute. He is very over the top. He's obviously wealthy. They're the same age. And he's just always spoiling her. That is the whole account. She just had a baby too. And it's basically, he just spoils her. He spoils the shit out of her. And like, there are people that do like satirical takeoffs of their videos. It's so funny. He is like always so into her. She was 9 months pregnant. He's equally as into her. She's 2 months postpartum. He's equally as into her. Every video, he's like narrating it. He's just like, here's my beautiful Pookie. Look how hot she is. You could just eat her up. This is pregnant Pookie. It's even hotter than non-pregnant Pookie, but the now non-pregnant Pookie is the hottest yet. It's like, if a guy has trouble with being complimentary and understanding what I mean, look up Pookie and Jet. And then also look up the guy that tries to be both Pookie and Jet, and he does a takeoff of them. It's very funny. But anyway, this can be your Rosetta Stone to understanding your wife, especially if she ever does. So, and one more thing, I should probably bring this up. Some guys think that if they do this, they're going to be rewarding somewhat of an agender, asexual part of their wife. So somebody who only goes around in sweatpants and the most childlike clothes and, you know, like huge body obscuring blankets and shit, and that if they say like you are such a cute little thing, and then the woman will like somehow revert more wholly into this child self that is abhorrent to them in the context of the lack of sexy woman. So like they think that then any possibility she has to act like a grown and sexy woman will evaporate, because she will just lean so completely into this that she will somehow morph into truly like a 6-year-old, you know, cartoon child, you know. And I am here to say that, believe me, that's not going to happen, right? Giving somebody more love never makes them act worse, you know? It never, like, she knows that you want her to be a sexy woman too. And in fact, it's probably subconsciously in opposition to how much you talk about sex and how much you want her to be a sexy woman that she reverts into this blanket clad child self, because she's like basically subconsciously, if you don't like all of me, you ain't getting just the parts you want. You know, it would be like if your wife only loved you literally when you were at work because you were making money. And then she gave you compliments, but the minute that you came home and did literally anything else. She was like, why don't you go back to work? Why don't you go back to work? Why don't you go back to work? It's hot when you work, productivity, money, that's hot. That's a big man. I like that man. You would be like, can I not be like any other thing at all? And so that is frequently, and then you might start sitting on the couch just as like passive resistance, like basically, fuck you, you don't like me when I sit on the couch. You only like when I work. Well, look whose ass is on the couch. That may be what she is doing by surrendering to her child self in this way. Also, she's trying to make that child self more salient, so perhaps you comment on it in a positive way, like she sees all over social media and sees her friends' husbands do when they're more into them, in the exact guinea pig principle. So I guess I didn't say what the guinea pig principle is. The guinea pig principle is, if you love your wife as much as, if you think she's as cute as I think my guinea pig is, then you are going to have, I hope, a lot of sex with her. But even if not, your marriage will improve because she will feel wholly loved, like I hope my guinea pig feels, and and the male equivalent of this is the big strong hero, and that whole deal. And I could do a podcast about that, maybe two, but the basic way that you show that, of course, is having sex with your husband and being kind to him and loving to him. But we could do maybe a podcast on that. But the guinea pig principle is, if you think your wife is cute and lovable, then she will relax and be her best self. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this. Shout out to my follower who came up with the guinea pig principle, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.